This is 1,510 days since Richard was premeditatedly ordered to be murdered. That's called a code red, when the leadership orders the murder of one of their own. And this is not just one report of that, but now it's been corroborated. So yes, Richard was targeted. He was targeted severely, continuously, escalating, standing, not bending to their criminal network, and he was then ordered to be murdered. This is the reports that we are getting. Whistleblowers are, and I don't know if you can even call them whistleblowers. Let's see if I'm on here. But it's the best way to describe what's going on. More and more individuals, law enforcement are coming forward. They're sick and tired of the criminal justice system being weaponized, and more and more are coming forward. So some you can call whistleblowers, some, they might have a different name for, I don't know, maybe you can let me know what you would call these individuals that have inside knowledge and come forward. And we have more and more coming forward because everything is unraveling. Tomorrow is the Patrick Crucius Walmart mass shooting hearing. We are absolutely going to be paying attention, keeping track of those that event, that hearing, and why? Because Richard's case is connected to the Walmart mass shooting. And today's live stream, I called it 5 years of failures / John Briggs. And that sounds so negative, 5 years of failures, but the failures are John Briggs. And so he is the only one really that has been on that case from the beginning. Even when he was fired and taken off that case, he would not remove himself. He would not obey the orders. He's just so lawless. But he's been connected to that Walmart case, which is absolutely connected to the murder of our son Richard. And we also, because more and more are coming forward with information, we received information that Richard was reporting on information he had that exposed criminal activity with the Walmart mass shooting. And that is not hard to believe. Richard was an aspiring investigator. That's what he wanted to be. He wanted to be a criminal investigator. He had spent years, studying that, looking into that, and his entertainment circled that. For example, our eldest daughter wanted to learn, she loves languages, and she wanted to learn Korean because Korean had an alphabet. She came to me, she goes, I think I can learn Korean because it has an alphabet. It's called Hangul, and I think I can learn it. And I said, wow, okay, if that's what you want to do, that's wonderful, So she started studying it and doing online classes with it and everything. But she also started watching Korean dramas. We watched oh several with her, several. Jumong. Oh my gosh, if you haven't watched Jumong, that's just an amazing, amazing series. Um, Historical Korean drama that is just amazing. So we watched that with her. It's pretty long. And of course, why did she do that? Because her entertainment um, was what she was trying to study, what she was trying to learn. If she's going to try to learn Korean, um, she needs to listen to it. So, so she learned Korean, and she joined Korean groups, and through those Korean groups, she met her husband. This that's just how it all happens, right? The things that you're interested in, um, and we're just so blessed for all of that, and with this whole EV car thing, which I'm going down like a little rabbit trail here, but I just want to tell you that she was interviewed by the local news there about this smoke damage, and it's just terrible. It's just absolutely terrible. But here she is, just holding a Korean interview in Korean. I mean, she speaks German too. She speaks wonderful English too. She's just very talented like that to learn these languages. So that's how Richard was, but not with languages. He was like that with criminal investigation, solving cases. So for him to see the criminal activity on Fort Bliss connected to the borderland, um, he wasn't just a normal whistleblower, I don't think, because his interest was in how to collect evidence, how to read evidence, how to solve crimes, how to report crimes. And so um, we know for sure that his case was being looked into, that he was reporting to multiple institutions, agencies, and now we're learning that he was reporting not only on the criminal trafficking and the fraud, but also on the Walmart mass shooting. And, uh, if someone's just going to tell you that, you might question it. But in Richard's case, from everything that we know, for Dallas Hart being his platoon leader, for Nadal Baim being a bidder for an LLC that has a lot of conflicts of interest, very interesting, that was selling ammunition, but not just any kind of ammunition, ammunition that the El Paso Police Department would use, law enforcement would use, which would be the likes of brown tip bullets and green tip bullets. Um, that connection with James Hart, with Leilani Hart, with Danae Katzen, with KTSM, with El Paso Matters, with El Paso Community Foundation, with Bob Moore, with Chris Martin, and the list goes on and on. You know, the different connections that put this picture together, all these different puzzle pieces that put the picture together so we can see clearly. And, with all of that, with Ernest Christopher Grant, let's talk about Ernest Christopher Grant. we're getting word, and maybe people can correct this. Maybe Ernest Christopher Grant could correct this. But that he was former DEA, that he's former DEA agent. And here he is being caught lying, lying about his actions in the Walmart mass shooting. Not only that, but that there was a warrant out for his arrest. That, and I really can't say more about all the trouble that he was in, but he was in a lot of trouble before the Walmart mass shooting, and I believe even after it, because he lied. He lied. And he was given access to he was the media sweetheart. The media sweetheart to spread more lies, to be a false witness, which is a huge violation of God's law, to be a false witness, to damage justice, right? To obstruct justice, to tamper with justice. That is such a violation. A lot of people don't think about false witness as being such a bad crime, but it is a huge, huge um, sin. Sin, totally sin. And there's only when you look at the 10 major commandments, um, anyone can understand them. You don't have to get a PhD for it, right? Anyone can read. Matter of fact, the entire Word of God, is a medium-sized book. Anyone can, mature a bit and read through it and understand it, and maybe not totally understand it, but absolutely it 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 connects with our the energy that we have, knowing what is good and what is not good and what is right and what is wrong, and it just connects, right? We understand it. And everyone can do that. You don't have to get a law degree. You don't have to be, a PhD or anything like that. And so for Ernest Christopher Grant to be such a liar, to be such a false witness, to create such horrific lies. These are horrific lies. What he reported, what happened in the Walmart. They were meant to divide. And for the likes of, my husband being a PA, he says, look, there was a weapon, right? There was a weapon. And this was a semi-automatic weapon. And powerful semi-automatic weapon. No way, if he was shot twice in the abdomen with that kind of weapon, could he give that type of interview with Chris Cuomo the very next day? So less than 24 hours later. And then just, 3 days later with Beto O'Rourke, who, remember, that Beto was running for the President of the United States at the time. I believe so, right? Yeah. So this, for them to align with him and for them not to do a background check, not for CNN not to do a background check, not to even ask the El Paso police, who clearly said no. Our CCTV footage, which we would like to see some of that CCTV footage. I don't know. I don't want, um, we're talking about shootings, right? Everything. So I take that back, oh my God, y'all. But it's just like, we've got to get to the truth of this, and we have to have reliable witnesses, reliable law enforcement agents to tell us the truth. what happened that day, because the damage that the likes of total criminal Ernest Christopher Grant, with a connection, we're getting told he was connected to a DEA agent, um, to be connected to Chris Cuomo coming in, that kind of level, to be connected to Beto O'Rourke, to get, you know, this kind of media attention and coverage. And then when you're called out as a liar and a fraud, and with a warrant out for your arrest, a criminal and everything, you have to go to alternative media to read about it, maybe a little bit covered it, but he has been totally cut. Just look at all of the access that he got. Um, and there's more connections with him. But my problem with him is the destruction that his false statements made on the mental welfare of the people of El Paso. Um, the fear, the fear, the hatred, the politics behind it was very, very clear. And they were up to no good. Absolutely up to no good. And so for him, for the lies and for this stage, there's so many questions with him. And for him to be ghosted, like try to find any information on him. I think he probably left the country. I don't know. I mean, he was so protected. And this Walmart case, 5 years of failure of John Briggs, right? Which is good news, isn't it? If somebody is trying to cover something up, and schemes and commits crimes after crimes, and is interfering in other cases like our son's Richard at the same time, and clearly he has done so much damage. But I'm telling you, after 5 years, we'll see tomorrow. And we'll see if some of these people are going to be held accountable for their major crimes that they've committed. And by some of these people, I'm talking about Bill Hicks, I'm talking about John Briggs, and even Joe Spencer and Felix Valenzuela, and who's the other guy? Anyway, it'll come to me. But we notified them that about John Briggs's confession, notified them about the magistrate court masquerading, acting illegally, and yet they cover. They don't, in Joe Spencer's motion, he doesn't even mention John Briggs's confession and lying to Judge Medrano. And that's hard evidence. That's hard evidence, and very important in the Walmart case, because John Briggs is the prosecutor. And his unlawful activity is very important for Joe Spencer, the defense attorney. And yet in his motion, he doesn't even mention it. Not a word. But the same false narrative of the racism, of, all that, the manifesto stuff, that's reported like it's fact. Like there's not um, collaboration behind it and wickedness behind it by others that orchestrated the Walmart mass shooting. That there weren't other shooters, which clearly the evidence over and over again points to multiple shooters. And so the news coming from law enforcement is very good that they're coming forward and that Glennon Oakley Jr., his death that occurred in April of 2020, and he was a big whistleblower. He was a witness to a group of individuals dressed in uniforms carrying M4s in the mall, and also that shots were rang out in the mall. Shots were in the mall. And he was targeted like Richard, and in April of 2020 found dead in his barracks. And to hear that is being relooked at, investigated, along with Richard's reports about the Walmart mass shooting case. And we know for sure that Yvonne Rosales, when she was a district attorney, she was looking into Richard's case. And you have to understand that the Harts were also known by her because the Harts were in trouble. And I'm going to give you some breaking news right now. They're connected to iHeartRadio like KTSM. KTSM, when you put in 690 KTSM, you'll see iHeartRadio. Okay? This connects. It will blow your mind. Because KTSM, don't forget, is Danae Katz, is Bliss Avenue, is Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia. It is another connection with Leilani Hart, with James Courtney Hart, with Dallas Hart. They are establishment. And don't forget that Texas Hart was absolutely campaigning for all of this, the Black Lives Matters. He's for Ernest Christopher Grant to be visited by Beto O'Rourke, by Chris Cuomo. This is all politics. And also, Danae Katzen has a picture with Beto O'Rourke. She was, campaigning for him, or rallying for him. And so this is the connections with Chris Martin, with iHeartRadio, with James Courtney Hart, with Dallas Hart, with Leilani Hart, with Texas Hart. Texas Hart was having a lot of trouble during that time. And, you talk about troubled teens. It wasn't Richard. It was the Hart family. It was the Hart family. When you have Leilani Hart reporting that her family is engaging in incest and 7-year-old child sexual assault in her bedroom and child pornography and illegal weapons purchasing, and having that notarized and getting it coached. It's not that easy to get different reports that you want accepted by the FBI, referred to by the FBI. And she did it through the CID office, which is also very odd. Very odd. But it wasn't odd for her because she had a family member, Tavita Nusa, CID agent, that coached her. And that's why there's such a difference between that confession that was referred to the FBI and accepted it, and the latest crisis of lies, right? Crisis of lies um, confession that she just had. There's a huge difference between the two of them. And, so we had to really read through it and um, took some days uh, to verify and try to figure out what was happening. So uh, it seems like, I don't know if she has much coaching now. It doesn't look like she has much coaching now. But at that time, she did. And the DA's office, Yvonne Rosales, absolutely knew the Hart family. Absolutely knew them. Absolutely was looking into the murder of Richard. And of course, looking into opening up an investigation into the El Paso Community Foundation distribution of the Walmart mass shooting monies, the funds that people had donated and the Texas government had sent for the victims. That distribution um, was thought to be fraudulent. She was looking into it. Of course, there was scheming going on. And this is really the point that, I mean, if that's not enough, what I just said, I mean, that is just huge, but I even have more for you. Um, the scheming going around with John Briggs, with Bill Hicks, with Justin Underwood, with Bob Moore, um, to unseat Yvonne Rosales. It's becoming clearer and clearer the motive because 2 days after, it's like she fires John Briggs and she opens up an investigation into the um, El Paso Community Foundation uh, distribution funds. Where are they going? Who's getting that money? Are the victims? Well, we know that um, there's something really wrong there. Let's just say that. I hope you can read between the lines. There's something really, really wrong with who they gave the money to. Okay. And that absolutely needs to be investigated. This is such a huge case. It's not just about Patrick Crucius. And if you hear that the case gets dismissed tomorrow, um, know that Patrick Crucius will be sent to the Alcatraz of the Rockies to spend 1,000 years, just about 1,000 years. That's his sentence. So, um, and that has been there for a long time since the federal case ended. Maybe someone can tell me when that was. I know it, but not off the, yeah, it escapes me right now. I'm thinking 2022, right? Was the sentencing? I have to look. So no, it was earlier. It was earlier because Yvonne Rosales took office beginning of 2021, and she should have, because the federal court was on that case, she should have just let that case go. Let the federal case handle it. The federal, yeah. Um, because so many people have been hurt with this case, with Patrick Crucius' case, anyway. Um, Getting back to Yvonne Rosales, we know that she was looking, there was such a demand for the death penalty of Patrick Crucius. The people are very, very powerful, and they might not see the whole situation. And, and with COVID on top of that, that was 2021. Can you imagine? Everything was a mess. It was a total mess. And I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just saying it was ripe for people to get away with doing unlawful activities. And of course, Yvonne Rosales was retaliated against. This is what our open records show. She was and sources that she was absolutely getting retaliated against, and the coercion to make her resign was why there was a resignation. And there's a lot of funny stuff going on, stinky stuff going on around that resignation. And I've been getting, for a long time now, and now especially even more so, um, contact saying, but she resigned. And I wanted to clarify that because really Yvonne Rosales has no choice, because Bill Hicks has not properly installed. He's a usurper. He blew it. He was a recess appointment. He had a short window to do it right, and he blew it. He absolutely blew it. So what does this mean to you, Yvonne Rosales? Number one, she just needs to strap on her boots and go on over to the DA's office, because whether she resigned or not under duress, which she did, um, and the Texas Constitution protects like this kind of mutiny atmosphere where she is getting retaliated against from the inside, where people don't understand what's going on, and forcing her to resign in duress, right? The Constitution protects that kind of it protects officials from that kind of attack. And what it says is that if you are a, a victim of this scheming, of like this kind of mutiny, that's the only way I can describe it, like some kind of mutiny scheming going on that's forces your hand in duress to resign, that resignation is void. But okay, so let's say you don't agree, no one agrees to that, but it doesn't matter. It still doesn't matter whether her resignation was under duress or not, if it's void or not, it doesn't matter. Bill Hicks has not properly installed. He didn't do it. He's a usurper. And under Section 16, no, Article 16, Section 17, you look it up under the Texas Constitution. Yeah, Article 16, Section 17. I hope it's not vice versa, but under that, no, I think I'm right. Um, Under that, it says, look, there's a holdover provision. That means whether or not the DA, in this case, the DA, is sick, has cancer, resigns for any kind of reason at all, is in duress or whatever, it doesn't matter. They have to hold over until the next DA is properly installed. So no matter what, she is the rightful DA. No matter what. And so I think that that's very important for people to understand that they're built in the Texas Constitution, which is a beautiful thing. There is that holdover provision and also a protection of from the mutiny, right? A protection from them that if you are, forced, coerced to resign, that you can come back and say, "No, I was with look at this proof I have," and they have tons of evidence. I was coerced into resigning. There's protection against it that makes it void, and that's a beautiful thing. But in this case, it's both. It's both. It's this under duress, and also that Bill Hicks never installed properly. So no matter what, she's the holdover district attorney. Period. There's no other option there. So, Yvonne Rosales, strap on your boots, get a lot of your law enforcement buddies, allies beside you, and march into that DA's office, and let's get to the bottom of these cases. Let's get the criminal justice system going again. And then those that colluded, those that conspired. I mean, of course, if some of them, if they colluded and conspired and committed all of these terrible, terrible crimes to our system, to the community, to all of the victims' families, then they absolutely need to be held accountable. That could include arrests, right? Lots of arrests. So that is, let's see if I wanted to talk about Veronica Escobar. Veronica Escobar, who's giving everyone the runaround, because what else can she do? She is a puppet. She's, and my friend said it really great the other day. She was like, "No, they're demon possessed. This is my definition of demon possessed." She said that these people that cannot think on their feet, that cannot say what they want, that they are totally puppets, that they are totally under control of other individuals. She said that's the definition. When you just can't even act for yourself. And I think we're seeing a lot of that. Now, I don't know if I believe that definition, but I thought it was very interesting because this last Sunday, as I told you, you can't serve God and mammon, and it has a whole new meaning to me because you have so many witnesses in all of this, so many witnesses in the hundreds of thousands of children being trafficked into this country and being held at the emergency intake center on Fort Bliss, in our beautiful Fort Bliss, and being paid for by taxpayers' money. And they're mostly dead. Where are they? They're unaccompanied minors. It's said that they were ripped from their homes. That's not my words. They were ripped from their homes and they were unaccompanied. How can minors be unaccompanied? You just can't. You can't do that. You can't do that. Who's going to protect them? Hundreds of thousands? I mean, I understand if all of a sudden you have an orphan, but hundreds of thousands in this short amount of time? And then now they're all mostly dead? And where are the witnesses? There's so many witnesses. And in Richard's case, so many witnesses, and some are coming forward now. And in Glendon Oakley Jr.'s case, so many witnesses. He was so retaliated against. My heart just went. It was so clear in those videos. He was so retaliated against. What a beautiful young man. He was just trying to do the right thing. He was so proud to be a soldier. So much like Richard, so proud to be a soldier, wanting to be CID, wanting, to serve his country, wanting to establish justice, wanting to protect children, wanting to protect young mothers, wanting to, not allow politics to weaponize whatever he uncovered that orchestrated the Walmart mass shooting? Because that's what I believe. Because if I have law enforcement coming out and corroborating that Richard was a code red, at the same time as others are saying we're adding federal agents and we're looking into Glendon Oakley Jr. as well as Richard Halliday. And then you have years. I mean, you understand why we come on here every day, but you have absolutely the rogue criminal group that includes the prime suspects, the Hart family, that absolutely, and Richard's platoon leader, Dallas Hart. Spending this, and then the media can't say Richard's name when he's part of all of this. He's part of it. It's just like Joe Spencer can't say John Briggs's name when it comes to John Briggs's confession. So, what's behind that? And I think it's all falling apart um, because it's 5 years of failure. They've tried to frame a narrative around Richard. Think about the beginning of this, what they tried to claim about Richard. And it's all fallen apart. It's 5 years of failure. And I think that the whole narrative around Patrick Crusius has failed. People know that a severely handicapped, mentally handicapped, or severe mental health condition, and autistic, because that's been confirmed, that he could not act alone. And that if Ernest Christopher Grant got shot with the weapon that's in that picture with Patrick Crusius, he would never be able to do that interview. I'm not saying he didn't get shot. I don't know if he got shot or not. I'm just saying the forensics doesn't add up. The information doesn't add up. And I'm saying that that he's a proven liar. He's a false witness. He's a criminal. And he's a political creature. When you get visited by Beto and Chris Cuomo and the media is just using you like you're just the best thing since ice cream, or sliced bread, or you're just a media sweetheart, and they're covering up the dirt underneath, the crime underneath, the warrant underneath, and what really happened at the Walmart. They're covering that up. and to allow the racist accusations that clearly do not fit Patrick Crusius. Not the way he came into that courtroom 5 years ago. Of course, that's what they pulled out, is that the way he came out, the way he surrendered, and he clean shoes and clean pants, and they didn't bag his hands. Why? Why didn't they bag his hands for gunpowder? I mean, the things just don't add up. The It's 5 years of failure of trying to frame a false narrative. And do we have the total truth? No, but we absolutely have the victory knowing that the false narrative has failed. And that makes the people trying to frame the false narrative, working very hard to do so, criminal and implicated. And we'll see what happens. And in Richard's case, look at what they were trying to do to him. And we are now the Gold Star family. They didn't want us to be a Gold Star family because that means that Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss. And nobody in law enforcement says anything else. Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss. The failure of this rogue criminal group is the same type of failure of John Briggs. The failure to frame a false narrative that lies cannot stand. And we're very grateful for that. And do we know the 100% whereabouts of our son's remains? No. We don't. We know that there's a connection with his remains and Mexico. His remains and certain areas on Fort Bliss and in El Paso, because he was dismembered. And I'm sure that this rogue criminal group has more information. And that's why, since the failures of their lies, we have more and more people coming forward, because they're finally able. It goes back to that they have just tied us into the debt and to our jobs, so much so that it's very, very difficult to risk coming out as a witness. And that's a real travesty, because that's how they control us. And so that's serving them the mammon. They're doing it for the money, for their lifestyles and the debts they have to pay and all of that. And that's all understandable. But look at the harm it's doing. It's a really swirling down where there's going to be crying and gnashing of teeth. And we're very, very grateful that people are coming forward now. That they have, let's just say that the 5-year failure, has now freed them and allowed them to come forward, to make a deal, to be a whistleblower. That's really good news. Let's see what else is on here. Also, I wanted to say something about 9/11. we were in Germany during 9/11. What an experience. It was a total different experience than what my parents had in the United States. Um, because we were on a military base in Europe, and of course, the tanks came out pretty quickly, locking everything up. We've heard just the other day that Germany is shutting its borders. Um, so, you know, our hearts go out. My dad, my dad, matter of fact, uh, my dad, of course, lived in Virginia at the time, my mom and dad, and he got into, no, sorry, he lived in Maryland. He lived in Olney, Maryland, and he got into his van and he drove to the Pentagon to be of help. He had first hand views of what happened to the Pentagon that day. And our hearts go out to all the victims. I will say this because of that experience and clearly the false narratives, the framing of false narratives that were more successful than what John Briggs did, right? Um, and what the military community, law enforcement community tried to do to Richard. 4 years of failure, right? This criminal rogue group, what they've tried to do, failure. Um, but for 911, um, the framing of false narratives were more successful, and it taught us all a lesson. I think it taught us all a lesson. Things are very, very connected to politics, and I think the violence comes from that. Uh, the striving for political power over the laws. And that just goes to show us that the laws are just that powerful. It's like this Texas Constitution law giving Yvonne Rosales her office back with all the attacks, with all the attacks, with all the attempts, with all the, because that costs a lot of money too. With all of the scheming, they failed. And the law is what gives Yvonne back her office that she was duly elected to. And that's really amazing. And that's why there's this battle to control the law, to control the Supreme Court or the Congress or the Senate or, law enforcement. Yeah, it's a great lesson for us. So thank you so much. We will, because, uh, our sources have told us that over and over and over again, what was important for Leilani is she wanted a badge. She wanted a badge. She already had access, and she was bragging that she had access to records and all of that. She wanted a badge. They want access to control the law, to control people's confidential information, to use it badly, to profit off of it, to weaponize it, yeah. Um, and I think that is a very big lesson. And I will tell you that when you pick a leader, for us now, our litmus test is who will because none is good, right? Or none are good. But who will do the best with the law, or who will totally obliterate the law? I think that's you know a good litmus test. I don't know. Okay, everyone, thank you coming on late. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you. And, we're burning the midnight oil, but it's been breaking news. And I think the big breaking news tonight, we had so much, but the big breaking news is the iHeartRadio. I think that connecting it to KTSM, connecting it to the Hart family, James Courtney Hart, Dallas Hart, Leilani Hart, which connects, again, this is just another um, corroborating connection with Danae Katzen and Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia. You spoke to, oh, thank you, Dee, for coming on. You spoke to Angela Kachurg, which, okay, and um, I don't have too many kind words to say about Angela Kachurga, but I hope you had better um, a better conversation. So, um, yeah, she could do so much, but in my opinion, she does not care. She does not care about the veterans. She does not care about the border. She does not care about the hundreds of thousands um, of unaccounted for, unaccompanied, unaccounted for children that are mostly dead, and her husband's connections with um, Texas Heart, with um, others there in Dallas. Ooh, ooh, that's tough. Okay. Um, best to you, Dee. And I'm praying, and I'm praying. Thank you so much, everyone. We reached out to El Paso Matters today. We reached out to Texas Tribune today. We reached out to um, El Dario today. We reached out to, who else did we reach out to? Um, just we've been reaching out constantly, constantly. So we know these names, right? Uh, Miss Ramirez of El Paso Matters. Um, yeah. So we've been giving them all the information, all of it. Maybe not all of it, all that matters. And we'll see what happens. Tomorrow is the day. Pray. And thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing. And I will, be back tomorrow, God willing. Bye bye.